with another quick Affinity photo tutorial on a few basic edits. Some of these tools we'll be using you'll have used before, but we'll just combine them into one edited image. So this is the image that I've already done, and I'm going to work backwards. So if you see, if I just disable the right hand side, first of all, let me just maximize the window, and that's the original image. Okay, it has been processed as a raw file because it was a raw file from the Canon camera, and then I've added selected the top sky and then added a curves adjustment, so it only affects that. So we'll be using the selection tool again and looking at how to add a particular adjustment just to one part of the image. Okay, so let's go back and I'll close that. We're not going to save it, and we'll go back and open it again. File, open recent, we'll get the most recent one. Okay, so we're in the raw developer. Because it's a raw file, it automatically opens in the raw persona on the top left hand side, the develop persona, before we go into the photo persona for further editing. And on the right hand side you've got your 4 or 5 different tabs for the different processing elements, and we'll start with basic first. So just adjust the exposure of the whole image to something that's pleasing to the eye and in the best interest of the photo. I like to have a few shadows in the foreground, but just bring the brightness up a little bit. You can see I'm losing some of that sky, but we'll be able to sort that out. Increase the contrast a little bit, increase the clarity, which sort of, it's a bit like sharpening, but don't overdo it. You can zoom in and have a look and see what it's doing. Don't oversaturate it, and it always looks false when it's oversaturated, but increase the vibrance a little bit. The vibrance really addresses the midtones, so that'll help. I don't think I need to adjust the white balance here, but if you wanted to, you could do that. You might want to look at shadows again, shadows and highlights areas, and you might want to just tone down the highlights. You can see, can you see that? It's giving me a little bit more color, detail in the sky coming back. Okay, I'd be happy with that. That's in the basics tab. Don't need to do anything in the lenses tab. In the details, you might want to detail refinement. So it's again a bit like refining the sharpening of an image. If you zoomed in, you'll be able to have a look at that. Nothing else we want to do there, nothing on tones and overlays. Once we've done that, click develop, and you can see now it's actually gone from the develop persona into the photo persona. It's just doing it, and it'll just take a few seconds. It's now a JPEG. It's now ready to be saved as a JPEG, and so it's no longer a raw file. And we've got the layers panel there. Okay, so we want to select the sky. So we've used this tool before, the selection brush tool. Make sure it's the right size using the square bracket keys, and then just select. And because the sky is reasonably well defined compared to the mountain line, that's going to select it perfectly okay. We don't need to refine it as such, but if we click refine here, because what that allows us to do is to maybe feather the selection edge a little bit by a little fraction of a pixel, that might help. And then of course the output I always want it on a new layer because it helps us to see what we've done. So click apply, and you can see now that's the original image, and we've now copied and put onto a new layer just the sky. Okay, just for demonstration purposes, it needn't be on a new layer, but I think it always helps to see exactly what you've done. Okay, so now what I want to do is to apply an adjustment, but I only wanted to affect the sky. Okay, so go down to the bottom to the adjustments, and the better one is curves rather than levels. Levels and curves is very similar, but curves will serve you better in most instances. And really just play with the curves until you're not worried about what it's doing to the rest of the image. You're concerned about what does the sky look like, because it's the detail in the sky you want to bring back. Okay, bring out again. So let's do that. So we've now added a curves adjustment, but you notice it actually adjusted the whole image. We only wanted it to affect the sky. You could use the erase tool and erase the effect out here. You could create a mask and mask it out further, but in fact the best thing to do is to take this curves adjustment, which is on its own layer, because it's on the top, it applies to everything underneath. But if I bring it down and put it below the pixel layer, but just go to the right a little bit, that now becomes a daughter layer of the top pixel layer, because I put it underneath to the right. So it's now forms a group within that. So that means although that curves adjustment layer is underneath that sky selection layer, it's because it's a subsection of it, it only applies to that. And you can see that it doesn't affect the foreground at all. If I take that out, that's the original image after we developed it, and that's with the sky enhanced. Okay, and of course if you find that that effect is too strong, just change the opacity. Just bring the opacity down a little bit. So all you're doing is changing the opacity of the effect of the curves adjustment, and maybe 100% is a bit too harsh. Bring it down to perhaps 80%, so it's there, it's noticeable, but it's not overly so. Okay, hope that helps. Try that and give it a go. So it's really applying a curves adjustment to a selected area only. We'll be doing more of that later. And then of course you just go and file, save it as a save as if you want to export, if you want to save it as a Affinity photo file to come back to it and edit it, but export if you want to finally save it as a JPEG or a PNG or even a Photoshop file. Okay, so we won't do that now, but that's if that's what you wanted to do. Thank you very much. I hope that's helpful. Go and give it a go.